Hey guys, this is Fergal from Poker VIP. We are back with part 3 of the Beginner's Guide to Cash Game Poker, the next step. So what we're doing is following on the exact same format as the previous 2 videos of this series. We are going to be playing 3 tables of 10 and L regular tables. We're going to be talking through my thought process as each and every spot arises, and hopefully winning some money by the end of the session. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the action. So this is actually a direct follow-on from part 2. However, 2 of our tables broke, so this is the only table where we have some relevant reads, unless some of the same players are at our tables, which is possible because it's not a huge player pool. So we're definitely going to be seeing some familiar faces for sure, particularly from some of the regular players. We're going to fire a c-bet here just very much as a one and done, just purely because this board is so much better for our range than it is for his, so I expect him to be playing relatively straightforwardly. When he does call, it's good that we pick up some equity, but we're not planning on putting any more money in if we can avoid it. So we're going to check this back. And we're ahead of his 10x, which is good. We're obviously behind all of his ace-x, and I don't expect him to have a queen too often here. He pots out, we're just going to fold, let this one go. We're going to try to just get our pair of kings to showdown over here. We are good, which definitely doesn't surprise me. Just the reason I didn't bet was because he can have some ace-x with the way he played that hand, and we're just never going to get him to fold that, and we're very rarely going to get called by worse. So betting doesn't really seem like it was going to accomplish too much for me. So we're opening up the king and the queen. We get re-raised. This is a player that we have no information on, really. We only have played 9 hands with him so far. We're just going to go ahead and let this go. He should be pretty strong pretty often here when he 3-bets from when we've opened from that position. So we're going to give him the credit until we have a bit more information indicating that maybe he's a bit of a wilder player. So on the table that didn't break, we do have a bit of a stack, which is good, but there's only one guy at our table who has a potentially the same kind of stack as us, so hopefully we'll be involved in a €40 pot at some point versus this guy that gets shipped our way, but we'll have to see how the cards fall. We're going to let the ace-10 go, and this guy 4x's it from early position. Pocket 8s, we are going to flat and see a flop. We're going to be opening the 10-jack here from the button when it's folded to us. When this guy 3-bets, we're just going to let the 8s go. Kind of sucks here. None of our options are particularly good. When we're not closing the action, though, we kind of just have to give this guy credit. This guy, we've played just under 100 hands with him. He has been incredibly nitty so far. He's playing 14-11-5 strategy, so he's only playing 14% of his hands, raising 11%, and he's only 3-betting 5%, which is very, 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 very tight overall. So we're going to have to give him credit there and let the 10-jack go. We'd be folding 10-jack versus most players, but against loose players, we may consider doing something different. But when we're pretty confident that he's extremely nitty, it's just a slam dunk fold basically. It's not remotely close. Obviously opening up the jacks, we're not planning on folding this hand to a 3-bet. Deuce queen, we do open the button very, very wide. This is just a little bit too wide though, so we're going to let this one go. The big stack folds, which is upsetting. We obviously would like to have him in the pot, but we take it down pre-flop, which is never what we want with jacks, but hey, there are worst case scenarios, as I always say, so we're not going to be too sad either. The king and the 8, we are going to bring in for an open from the cutoff. And the 7 deuce, we are planning on just folding, of course. Although if a bunch of people decided to come along, we may flick the chips in because we're getting a very good price. But yeah, we're not planning on playing 7 deuce heads up, that's for damn sure. 7-5 suited will have some potential to be played though. This guy opens, we will like... Oh, sorry, I didn't realize this guy had opened. I thought this guy just opened to 9x. I didn't see that this raise had come in already. Yeah, we were just going to be folding then in that case. But if this guy had opened, we likely would have used this hand as a 3-bet bluff. But when he 3-bets and under the gun open, we expect him to be very, very strong here pretty often. So, kind of surprised I didn't see about this board. When he does check back, I guess he can have hands like queens and jacks, those types of hands, but I would have expected him to be c-betting a very hefty chunk of his range here in this spot. 3-bets and doesn't put any more money in, which is pretty interesting. I feel like if he has a bluffy hand, he should be betting that flop very, very frequently, and when he does check back, I don't think he should ever really have a hand that he's just planning on folding to a bet on the turn, basically, is what I'm getting at. Or at least very, very rarely, anyway. The ace-6, we're going to bring it in for a steal from the cutoff. We don't want this guy to call. If either of these guys call, we don't hate life, but ideally we're definitely happy just taking this down free. This guy does call, which is bad news for us because we have to play out of position now. We flop middle pair. We're going to pot control with it. I'm just going to bet small here for a little bit of protection now. When this guy checks back, we're going to have the best hand very, very often now, I think. And checking a second street doesn't seem like it's going to accomplish too much. We're not going to fold this raise just because we can definitely have induced successfully and encouraged some spaz out raises. This card is atrocious for us though. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about what I mean there. So when we bet 20 cent there, it shows an incredible amount of weakness basically. He can definitely be raising light there, but 20 fires a second barrel there on the 4 to a straight board. It's a good board for him to be bluffing, but I'm just not sure if he knows that or if he's good enough to realise that, so we're going to have to go ahead and give him credit. We are definitely folding the best hand there, at least some percentage of the time though. I'm just not quite sure how often based on what I know about this player pool. Like if I'm in his shoes there, I would be doing that as a bluff very, very often, I think, because it's a really good spot to be doing it as a bluff. Queen 7, if it's folded to us, we're going to be bringing it in for an open. We are going to be letting the 9-5 go though. So this player, Doomsday, definitely seems like one of the regular players in the sense that he plays a lot, but he seems very, very tight, so I'm guessing he plays an absolute ton of tables and plays a very, very straightforward strategy, so we're going to be seeing if we can exploit him in that sense in a lot of ways. People that play a very straightforward strategy are very, very easy to play against. You can get a little bit more creative against them because they're not going to be thinking every spot through, because generally when he's mass tabling, he's going to have a lot going on, so he's not going to have a lot of time to think these things through. So these are the kinds of players that you need to be able to profile and recognize correctly. I'm just going to call with the ace-4 here, play a pot in position. Folding an ace blind versus blind is completely out of the question. We could 3-bet, that would be a viable option, but I'm a bigger fan of calling and playing post-flop poker when we have position, because that's going to be a very profitable scenario for us. We're going to just go ahead and turn our hand into a bluff and just look to take this down now. When he does check, I expect him to be check folding a reasonable percentage. He doesn't, but we hit our dream card. We're going to bet again. And we're going to be really upset if he raises us here. And I see no reason not to bet again for value here. Just try to get picked off by like a hand like King Jack, King Queen, something like that. He goes out and folds though. We have a suited king, which we will be using as a steal, and depending on the player that opens, we may consider a 3-bet bluff, potentially. The queen and the 6 down in the bottom left table though, obviously very straightforward fold. So we don't know much about this guy at all. From the cutoff, I think we're just going to go ahead and let this one go. If we've got a little bit more information on this guy and we're confident he is going to be opening too wide and overfolding to 3-bets, then we can definitely start using these kinds of hands to attack that kind of player, but so far we don't have that information. If the button had opened, we probably would have 3-bet this guy. He seems like he's going to be on the regular side in terms of his overall stats, so he's definitely going to be opening a reasonable amount from the button, that much I know for sure. And so far we don't have much of a sample on how he responds to 3-bets, but we've seen him fold 1 out of 2 times, so that's not really anything that we can go by. But we can start building a sample against this guy, and a suited king is a perfectly reasonable hand to be using as a 3-bet bluff. The 10-8 offsuit versus this guy who so far seems incredibly nitty, but the sample is almost insignificant. We only have 20 hands on him, but he hasn't raised a single hand pre-flop yet, which is pretty telling. We're just going to be folding. And obviously a very, very easy open versus the multi-tabling nittier player with the 9-jack suited. Jack 3, easy fold, and the 8-4 suited, if it's folded to us, we're going to go for a steal. It is not folded to us, we're going to be doing that folding thing. Jack 7, we will be opening from the button though, if it's folded to us. Again, any open before us, we will be letting our hand go. So, similarly to the previous videos, we're going to be min opening any time it's folded to us on the button. Because we're opening a really wide range on the button, we want to get away with our steals for as cheap a price as we can. And it also does encourage some action behind us, which is never bad when we're in position. The more pots you get to play when you have position, the more you're going to be able to exploit people. But we take this one down without a fight, which we definitely don't mind with that hand. And pocket fives, we open any position from any pocket pair rather from any position, so we are going to be opening the fives. Really sucks that this guy is so short. He seems on the more aggressive side. We could consider just jamming here, but we're going to wait until we have a little bit more information on this guy. We definitely don't have the price, like we're not getting the right price to call at all. We've pocket kings now, so our tightness gets rewarded by the powers to be over at Betsafe. And we have this guy opening from under the gun, which we love because he is a tighter player. Just have a quick look at his early position stats. Stats look a little bit strange in that sense, from his positional stats I mean. But we're not going to mind. We are going to be bumping it up. We're going to be making it 130 total, so another euro to go. We have Ace-Jack over in the top right table, which we are going to be looking to play. This guy folds, which is upsetting. I think there's a decent chance that we end up in a big-ish pot versus this guy. He folds as well, which is unfortunate. Not what we wanted at all with the kings, but hey. At least we picked up the raise and the call. And we are going to go ahead and continue with our trend of 3-betting a lot with the Ace-Jack blind versus button. And again, versus this guy who seems to be way too tight, we are going to be stealing with any king. We're going to be stealing really wide against this guy in general, but a king certainly fits the bill. I don't expect this guy's calling range to have hit this board well at all. This is a good card for us to continue to represent, so we're going to go ahead and fire. Pick up a gut shot, which is nice. We are going to fire 3 streets against this guy, just because I don't think he's going to have that much ace-x, and it puts him under a lot of pressure with a lot of all of his other hands, basically. So let's see if we can get this through. Jams on us, which makes us very sad. Definitely wasn't expecting to get jammed on. Definitely wasn't expecting to get jammed on, but okay. Nice hand, sir, nice hand. I'm at a loss for what he has there. I guess he can have slow played sets. That makes the most sense to me. That would make the most sense. Kind of hard for him to have much else. I don't think he's ever bluffing there anyway. That much I know for sure. He's pretty much never on a bluff there. And when I say pretty much, I just mean never. That guy is just not bluffing there. It's never fun getting caught out by the nits, though. When you've identified somebody who, I mean, on that run out, I think it's a perfectly reasonable play against him. But in general, you don't want to be going off on many multi-street bluffs versus nitty players. It's just that particular board was a good spot for it. But it's always kind of tilting when that does happen versus a player that you have identified. And 10-5 on the button, not much we're going to be able to do there, so we're going to let that go. And the 9-7, we are also going to be folding. And potential pot brewing over here. When this pot goes multi-way, there are definitely some potential for fireworks, because it's kind of hard for people to be calling just with overcards, so it is possible that some people have some piece of this. It's interesting. Definitely wasn't expecting 2 folds there versus a second barrel when that card, like that 6 just changed absolutely nothing essentially. Some straight draws got there, sure, but in general the hands that were calling on the flop I was expecting to be continuing on the turn at least reasonably often, so for both of them to fold I'm very surprised. 10-7, not much we're going to be able to do here, and we have a suited ace on the big blind, which we like. We are going to be playing this almost certainly, and versus the small blind, if he opens, we would just be flatting in position. He goes ahead and folds, which you don't mind. And we're going to be letting the 4 deuce go from the small blind versus the early position open. King deuce is also going to be a fold. And we have a huge pot potentially brewing over on our top right table. And this guy min raises here. It looks pretty damn nutted, so I wouldn't be shocked if this guy has a hand that he wants to continue with. I assume that they're always going to be getting all the money all in here. I don't think this guy is ever doing this as a bluff, so I don't think he's ever going to be raised folding like this. The heart is very interesting. Oh wow, I stand corrected. He's just min raising the gut shot with the 10s. I think I need to start making some adjustments to my assumptions about how these players play in this game, because those were 2 hands that I was not expecting to see there in that hand at all. That is crazy. We're going to fold the king jack versus this particular player just because he is that nitty. And playing out of position against him is going to suck. He doesn't really fold to 3-bets too much, so we don't want to be 3-betting that kind of hand, because it's going to be basically building a very bloated pot out of position versus a player with a very tight range overall, which is going to be a recipe for disaster. So, and I don't like calling either, because it's just going to be so hard to win unless we improve. So I'm not a huge fan of calling with those kinds of hands out of position versus a tight range, because we're going to suffer from a lot of domination issues. He's going to have all of the hands that beat us, and not tons of hands that we're ever kind of comfortable calling against. So we have an ace and an ace, which we like. Let's go ahead and have a 3-bet. Our stats on this table have been incredibly nitty so far. We've only played 12% of hands over a sample of 26. So let's hope this guy continues, obviously. Oh, we like that, don't we? I mean, I don't see any reason not to just jam all of the money in here. I'd be really surprised if he ever folds here. Wow. Wow. That was not what I was expecting, because he made his re-raise really, really big. So I mean, he's basically pot committed there. I don't see any, I mean, if he's planning on folding there, his raise sizing there was way off in my opinion. You do not need to go that big to accomplish the same thing. So when he did choose that sizing, I expected him to be very value heavy, and again, another example of my assumptions about this player pool potentially being a little bit off. But I mean, I'm confident, obviously, that we're still going to be winning at a very substantial rate. I just think that it is possible I can make some tweaks to my game to really start exploiting some of these people, because they're doing some absolutely wild things. Overall, the standard of play that I've seen has been very, very poor, so there's a lot of money to be made on this site. We don't mind taking it down with the 6-7 suited. We're just going to fold the raggedy ace versus the 3x from the cutoff, and we're going to be opening with the ace-9 on the button. We're going to check back the ace-9 here. No point in bloating the pot. We're going to have the best hand pretty frequently. The jack is fantastic. It reduces his jack X combos. So we're just going to try to get our ace-9 to showdown here. Ace, I mean, obviously we're only playing the ace now. All of his worst aces we're now chopping with, along with all of his better aces, which, I mean, isn't a terrible result for us. And as I said, our ace alone was going to have the best hand here really, really often, I think. So we're happy just to check this down, and we do indeed. No action so far with the suited connectors, folded around to the blinds. Again, obviously we're happy just if we take this down pre, but when we get to play in position, we don't despise a call either. We're going to fire just one and done on this board, because obviously we've got all of the strong ace-x in our range. He doesn't have tons of ace-x, he does have some for sure, but we're gonna this board is better for us for sure than for him in general, so we're going to go ahead, bet as a one and done bet. And normally I like having at least some kind of backdoor potential if I'm going to fire here, but the ace high board is just too perfect not to fire once on. We do get called, but yeah, as I said, we're not going to be investing any more chips in this pot. And my leads, we have a trivial fold. Ace 4 is going to be a fold from early position. The 5-9 suited, we are going to be stealing versus this guy, just again because he is playing too few hands, so we're going to be stealing incredibly wide against him overall. We get raised before us though, and again this player seems like he is very, very nitty as well, so we're happy just to let that go, obviously. And so far on the top left table, no action with our 4s just yet. Fold around to the blinds. We don't mind a call, or we don't mind a fold. We don't really want to get 3-bet here though, obviously, unless it's exceptionally small. We're going to go ahead and ISO here with our King X, because anyone who is limping on the button is just automatically a bad player. So we're definitely happy to play pots against them, even out of position. Flop an open-ender, which is fine by us, and we take it down, which is also fine by me. And one of the better flops for us that doesn't contain a 4, there's only one overcard, which is pretty hard to do when you have pocket 4s. And we are going to go ahead and bet here, just to protect our hand a little bit and define his range a little bit more. No reason to go big at all. We can just go 20 into 50 and expect a reasonable amount of folds, and if he does continue, we've got a lot of options available to us on the turn. So what I'm going to do is bet again here to make sure that we're charging his flush draws, as well as protecting our hand versus his random overcard floats, his ace highs, his other types of hands that he can show up with there. And basically, if we check back here, we have to call a river bet. And I don't think he's going to be going berserk with any of his pocket pairs below the queen here at all. He min raises us, which is terrible for us, obviously, but any raise, we're just dead in the water, so we're going to let it go. But basically, that bet will accomplish a lot of good things because, as I said, it charges his flush draws. It prevents him from drawing for free when he has his kind of random floats, his random ace-high floats and stuff like that. And I don't think he's ever going to be raising his better pocket pairs, and he may opt to bet them on the river for value, which we have to call anyway. So our overall expected value against that segment of his range doesn't really change. So by betting the turn, we just make sure that we do get value from the hands that can't call a bet on the river, basically. So that was my logic there. Pocket 9s, we are almost certainly going to be playing. Just waiting to see what comes to me, obviously. This guy limps, we are going to be ISOing. When this guy raises himself, we're just going to go ahead and call and see a flop. Not the worst of flops for pocket 9s. We don't ever fold to min raises blind versus blind, so we could consider using this just as a pure 3-bet bluff, but I'm fine just calling, keeping the pot small, and playing post-flop poker in position. We're not folding the 9s just yet, so we are going to call and see a turn. If he double barrels on the turn, we're going to let it go, unless we improve to a 9 or if a 10 rolls off, potentially. King is an interesting card. I'm not loving that this guy calls as well. When this guy calls, we never have the best hand. When this guy bets and we call, like, obviously we're still going to be ahead of all of his bluffs. This guy, it's very, very difficult for him to have a worse hand than us right now, though, so we are done putting money in. The only exception would be if he checks back, we could consider bluffing river, potentially, just to fold him off of his kind of Jack X hands. But this guy bets anyway. He bets quite large. We're happy enough just to fold. Would have liked to see how that hand played out there. Would have been very interested to see that get to showdown and see what people show up with. And very easy steal here with the 10 jack suited, obviously. This guy 3-bets any sort of reasonable size. We are going to call and see a flop. We flop top pair, which we like. We turn top 2, which we like even more. We're going to check again and expect this guy to bet a reasonable percentage of the time. He opts not to, and that is just a disastrous run out for us. We were planning on just check raising here, basically, and now can't really do so. And we allow him to get there, which is very, very upsetting. But as I said, I was expecting him to bluff at that when we've shown so much weakness. It's hard for us to have a hand that strong, so I was expecting a reasonable amount of bluff bets there. The exact hand he has there, it makes perfect sense for him to check it back though with his pair and his good shot, because he's never going to get value from worse, so I understand his check back. If he has a hand like, ace 5 that he decided to bluff pre-flop or anything like that though, I think there is a really strong possibility that he starts bluffing that turn. Well, we checked him twice, because it's just so rare that we have a hand that we're continuing with, so it would make a lot of sense for him to try to take it down there and then. But unfortunately, he had the kind of hand that wanted to check back, and he managed to bink his gut shot. And the ace-2 suited, we don't get any action. Again, definitely not a disaster. We wouldn't have minded some action there for sure, but we don't despise just taking it down pre-flop either. We never despise taking it down with a raggedy ace. They're not the easiest hands to play post-flop, and yeah, so taking it down there and then is certainly not a problem for me. Again, we don't ever fold to these min raises. We are going to go ahead and 3-bet this time though, because this hand is just so weak that we don't really want to be calling and just seeing flops. We take it down without a fight, which is definitely what we wanted. And we wake up with pocket 4s in the small blind for the next hand. We are going to be playing this in a lot of different scenarios as well, of course. Pick up a flush draw over on the top right table, which is nice. We are going to fire a second barrel. We're going to be 3-betting our pocket 4s from the small blind versus this guy. We take it down here with our flush draw, which is fine by us. And we are going to be ISOing the short stacked limper with our suited connectors. We get a caller on the button, which we don't love, because again, we're going to be out of position. Flop middle pair, which is a perfectly reasonable holding, and this guy just overbets out. Alright, we're going to let him have this one. There is just no hand that this is good with, in my opinion. Even if he is bluffing, I mean, like, I'm certainly not folding a reasonable queen to him. And all of my queens that I'm opening from that position are going to be reasonable. Like, I'm never going to have, like, really, really marginal queen X there. So, I'm not going to be folding top pair to him, but I think if he's doing that as a bluff, I think he doesn't need to go that large. And if he's doing it for value, it's not going to be good either. So we're going to bet here with our gut shot and our back doors, and we take it down, which is a fine result. We're going to be wrapping up the video pretty soon now. We're approaching the half-hour mark. We'll get another couple of hands in before we finish up though. The 10 and the 6, easy fold versus the 3x on the button, obviously. And the suited ace 9, we are more than likely going to be playing. And the jacks, we are certainly going to be playing. So that is not a very good flop for our jacks. We're going to start this off with a check, and we are going to 3-bet here versus this guy who has been min-raising blind versus blind a lot. Promising that this goes check-check. Betting doesn't really feel like it's going to accomplish anything for me here, so we're happy to check this back. And we're going to just check, and we're not planning on folding here if he decides to lead. So he had 6 high, so obviously we're not going to be getting paid there at any point. We're not folding versus this guy. He seems like he is on the more aggressive side of his 3-bets, just a case whether we want to 4-bet bluff or not. I think we're strong enough that we can just call and see flops in position. We flop top pair, which is good when we have the tops to the kickers. We're going to start this off with a check back. A lot of his checking range here, I think, is going to consist of a reasonable amount of stronger ace-x, which will struggle to call down. but only has 3 outs against us, so we're happy to, and that is just a dream card for us. And I see no reason not to jam here. It's very, very difficult for us to be beat. He can have exactly pocket aces that he slow played the flop with. He can have pocket 9s and one combo of pocket 10s. I don't expect him to ever show us a 3 here, unless maybe it's like ace trace suited. So, and he can have like ace king, ace queen, ace jack that he may feel compelled to call off with. So let's just go for the max value, and he has the ace queen. Nice. So nice way to round off the video. As I said, this has been Fergal from Poker VIP. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and we'll be back again soon with part 4. If anyone has any questions or queries about anything that's come up throughout the video, feel free to leave them on the relevant social media. I check the YouTube videos very frequently. I also check them over on Poker VIP, so feel free to leave some comments, questions, anything like that at all. And hopefully I'll see you back here for part 4. Take care.